Royal Rebounds TV with Calvin and Barry. Just two crazy fans of the Sacramento Kings, and they sharing their opinion. So be sure that you subscribe. It's for the fans, by the fans. Whether you chilling on the couch or wildin' in the stands. For laid back conversations about the Kings, subscribe here. Staying down until we come up thinking this gon' be our year. We're here, drinking beer, talking about the Kings. Be sure you subscribe so you can hear that bell ring, yeah.
What's up, Kings fans? How y'all doing? Welcome in to Royal Rebounds. Game 7, Kings-Warriors. Unfortunately, Kings lose 120-100. The Warriors dominate in the second half. I am here in studio today. Barry is joining us via Twitter Spaces. Barry, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear, Calvin.
As Mike says, brutal here in the chat. Just an unfortunate way to end what was such a magical season for the Sacramento Kings. Going away, the Warriors dominate in the second half. Curry goes for 50 in this game, sets a record for the most points ever scored in a Game 7. Man, what a finish here for the Sacramento Kings. I want to welcome everybody into the chat here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting our channel and this team all season long. What's up to Matthew? We got Vinny in the house. Shout out to Vinny Squatch. Mike, Callum, Wendy. Hi, Wendy. Man, Barry, we'll get into specifics here. I know this is going to be tough. Obviously, the emotions are fresh. The wound is open. But give me your first thoughts on Game 7.
Yeah, so first off, just wanted to apologize to anybody if you're hearing a bunch of background noise. I'm on the Strip in Las Vegas right now. I'm trying to find a quiet place. But I found an awesome place to watch the game, so if you do hear some background noise, I apologize. Also, shout out to all my Royal family members out there. Unfortunately, I can't see the chat right now, but I know you guys are there. I appreciate every single one of you, so thank you all so much. Rough loss for the Kings tonight, Calvin. First thought on the game. Kevon Looney is the best rebounder that I've seen in my entire life. It seemed like this guy was all over the place. I don't know if he's got a magnet in his pocket or what, but the ball always goes to Kevon Looney, which is absolutely crazy. I think the Kings, they tried. They played well in the first half of this game, and then the offense just kind of abandoned them in the second half of the game. So that's okay. Like I've been saying for the past couple of weeks, we didn't think the Kings were going to be here. So I'm still feeling good. I'm still feeling positive. There's a lot of things to build off of towards next season. But, hey, we took the reigning champs to a 7-game series. I know we didn't win it, but there's a lot of experience and, like I said, a lot of lessons learned by these young Kings players in this very, very young Kings team. I know this is not how we wanted to end the season, but let's face it, you make the playoffs. If you don't win a championship, your last game of the season is going to be a loss, and that's exactly what it was for the Sacramento Kings. But shout out to all my Kings fans out there. Shout out to all the Sacramento Kings players. Not a good way to end the season, but we did what we could, and hey, we're coming for you next year.
Absolutely, I think that last sentence is key there. You mentioned, the Kings were not supposed to be here this season. The entire year they were counted out. Nobody expected them to A, make the playoffs, B, win the division, C, end up with home court advantage in the first round, D, win a single game in this series against the Warriors. You can go on and on and on. The Kings were counted out every step of the way, and the fact that they took this defending champion Warriors team to a 7th game, won Game 6 on the road in convincing fashion. Of course, this is not the result that anybody wants, but we're here as your shoulder to cry on, like Barry always says in the studio. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt all summer long. But I think that that's, in a way, a good thing for this team, right? Because they're going to come back motivated next year. I mean, you say it or you see it over and over and over again. Teams have to learn what it's like to be in these situations if you haven't been there before. You have to understand what it takes, and you're going to have to deal with bumps, lumps, and Sabonis and the team took many of those throughout the course of this season. But the mental and the physical toll that it takes. This should only motivate you more to come back stronger next year. You know, all of these things that we've said all year long, that they're playing with house money, that the future is bright. I mean, that's great. It definitely should motivate this team to come back stronger next season. But, man, it's a very disappointing way to end it. You would have loved to see them compete a little bit more. But, yes, Kevon Looney won this game for Golden State. He was absolutely enormous for them in this series. Yes, Steph had 50 points. But the offensive rebounds, giving up 13 and a quarter is just absolutely unacceptable. And yes, the narrative, as it's been all year long, is going to be they need bigger players, they need a better backup center, or they need a more consistent guy in there. They need more size, rim protection, rebounding, all of that stuff. But the bottom line is, you know, when it comes to size in this series, the Kings were not overmatched. The Warriors play a small lineup. You've got to be able to fight and compete in there and grab rebounds. They had the rebounding champ this season in Domantas Sabonis, and he was out-rebounded for the entire series by Kevon Looney. So give credit to the Warriors. As much as it as much as it pains all of us to say that, the Warriors outplayed them in this game. And they took it. They absolutely took it. All the 50-50 balls, as I'm seeing here in the chat, rebounding, second chance points. You know, it's not like the Warriors shot incredibly well in this game, and they didn't for a lot of this series either. The margin for victory was very slim for most of these games, and that's why those key pivotal plays, the second chance opportunities, the turnovers, in a Game 7 like this, that's the lesson that you're going to learn if you're the Kings when you walk away here. I've got my hella proud hat on because after it's all said and done, I am 100% still hella proud of this team and the effort that they gave all season long. But they came up short in a big way today. The offense failed them in the second half. The shots weren't falling. And when that's happening, you simply cannot give up 4 consecutive second chance opportunities per possession, it seemed, down the stretch there to the Golden State Warriors. Barry, let's jump into the box score here real quick before we continue.
Hey, Cal, real quick, can I say something?
Yes, please.
So, first off, I just wanted to say, you know, like, no shame in losing to the defending champs, especially when it takes a historic performance from their best player to beat you. But in a non-Kings related issue, I just wanted to put, you know, thoughts and prayers out there for the young UC Davis high school graduate that was stabbed last night in Sycamore Park in Davis. It's the second person stabbed to death at a park in Davis in the past 4 days. It's extremely sad. It's extremely disturbing. I don't know what the hell is going on in Davis. It's a town that I grew up in a town that, you know, was always known for being extremely safe. So hopefully they can figure it out. Hopefully the community can band together and catch this person or people. But really, really, really sad. So thoughts and prayers out to that student's family.
Absolutely. Very well said. It's a very tragic situation out there in Davis, and we certainly hope that you know, that will be resolved soon. They can figure out who is doing this, because it's a very, very sad situation. On to more sad news here as we go to the box score for the Sacramento Kings. Domantas Sabonis, 16 points in the first half. Looked like he was going to have one of those, you know, iconic Game 7s such as Steph Curry had here, but he only scores 6 in the second half to end with 22 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists. Also had 2 blocks in this game. De'Aaron Fox really struggled for the most part of this game. Who knows how much of it was the finger bothering him and how much of it was the Warriors' defense. 16 points, 3 rebounds, 6 assists. He also committed 5 turnovers in this game to go along with 5 personal fouls. Harrison Barnes, basically a no-show in this game. 4 points, just 1 of 4 from the field, and a goose egg in every other statistical category. Kevin Huerter, much has been talked about him not showing up for the entirety of this series. 7 points tonight on just 2 of 9 shooting. Also had 9 rebounds, 2 blocks, and a steal. Keegan Murray, very aggressive again to start this game, kind of fizzled away towards the end. 10 points and 7 more rebounds. The bench got reasonable production tonight, but it was definitely not enough. 14 points apiece for Terrence Davis and Malik Monk. Monk also had 9 rebounds in this game. But again, if you give up all the offensive rebounds to Kevon Looney, it really doesn't matter how many offensive or defensive boards you're going to grab there. You've got to be able to take it out of his hands. Davion Mitchell, we will talk more about this, only plays 8 minutes in this game. A guy who had played fantastic defense for most of the series on Steph Curry ends up with just 1 point. And then Trey Lyles has 6 points and 7 boards, and Chimezie Metu gets a single point in there late in garbage time. PJ Dozier, also playing after the game was out of hand, adds 5 points. Barry, I'm not sure how much you're going to be able to add to this box score from what we've already talked about. We know where the Kings really struggled in this game, but anything really stand out to you?
Sorry, Calvin,
Did we
having
lose
some
Barry?
technical difficulties over here. I think I got it figured out. But, I mean, honestly, the thing that stands out most to me is the free throw shooting. Like, this has got to be one of the worst free throw shooting performances by both teams in a playoff game that I've seen in a really, really long time. But as I mentioned earlier, you know, the offense just didn't show up for the Kings. You mentioned Sabonis. He started out strong in this game, didn't finish strong. But hey, like I said, you know, you lose to the defending champ Golden State Warriors in 7 games, and your 2 best players have broken fingers, or a broken thumb and a broken finger, depends on if you classify a finger as a thumb or not, or a thumb as a finger. But like I said, I want to stay positive, happy with what the Kings did. You know, I'm not really too worried about the box score, Calvin, to be honest with you. But I did have a question for you. You know, shout out to Steph Curry, most points ever in a game, 750, but it took him 38 shots to do it. Calvin, is Steph Curry a volume shooter?
I mean, yes, I would say he is by pure definition of what it means to be a volume shooter, but great players, great scorers in these type of games. I mean, if you're a Warriors fan, you want Steph Curry taking as many shots as he possibly can, right? Because you know what he's capable of. And the fact that he's able to string together, you know, a bunch of makes there. I think that it's more important to look at, you know, where he was really getting his shots, especially in that second half. Yes, the 3-point shots are backbreakers, especially when he hits them, you know, with hands in his face or basically just throwing it at the rim. He seems to make more of those shots than anybody I've ever seen. But the Kings allowed him no resistance whatsoever when he was driving to the basket. It's one thing to beat your defender off the dribble, and because Steph Curry is such a fantastic three-point shooter, he can take most defenders, no matter how quick they are, off the dribble because you have to respect that quick release, that quick shot. He's got a beautiful step back as well, so you always have to be worried about that. It's understandable that he is able to bypass that first defender, but there's got to be a level of resistance from your second line there. And the Kings did not have that at all tonight. I watched the Miami Heat and New York Knicks game 1 earlier before the Kings game tonight. And the Heat did a phenomenal job at walling off the paint and making Jalen Brunson, who is a great one-on-one player in his own right, force the ball out of his hands. Now, yes, I totally admit that the Knicks do not have as great a three-point shooting arsenal as the Golden State Warriors do. But you cannot allow Steph Curry to get that many easy looks at the basket over and over and over again without forcing him to give the ball up. I mean, Klay Thompson, we can go back to the box score here for the Warriors, who did not shoot well in this game. Klay Thompson was 2 of 10 from 3. Andrew Wiggins was 1 of 5 from 3. Draymond Green was 1 of 4 from 3. Jordan Poole, 2 of 6. You've got to force. I realize that it's not maybe the greatest strategy to say we're going to give Klay Thompson a look or we're going to give Andrew Wiggins a look. But when Steph Curry is going supernova in the second half, there's got to be more of a commitment to wall off the paint, not give him open looks, open floaters, open runs at the basket, and force the Warriors to beat you with somebody else. I mean, it just has to be better than that. Do you agree, Barry? technical difficulties again here before or while we are waiting for Barry to come back here.
I'm here.
Oh,
Sorry.
he's here.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with my phone. But yeah, where the hell is Davion Mitchell, man? Why did he only play, what do you say, 8 minutes or something
8
tonight?
minutes in this game.
He's been the stopper. He's been the Curry stopper. He didn't play a lot tonight. Is it a coincidence that Curry goes for 50? Why the hell was Davion Mitchell not out there?
That's a very good question, man. I know Davion didn't have the greatest series when it comes to offense. And, of course, the Warriors go on a big run there in the third quarter. You're going to need to, obviously score to get back in this game. But bottom line is you can't come back in the game if you don't stop this team, if you don't get the rebound, you don't secure and close out a defensive possession. I just want to address here a little bit of what's going on in the chat. We've got some people suggesting that Mike Brown needs to be fired after this game. I totally understand that emotions run high after a game like this. It hurts deep down inside to get beaten this way in a Game 7. But the idea that Mike Brown needs to be fired for this one game is just atrocious to me. I just don't see how you can physically say that with any type of, continuity or make it make sense. I mean, the guy has been everything that the Kings needed, this young team this season. Dude totally was the unanimous coach of the year. And yes, it hurts to lose this game, but I just think it's laughable to think that they need to get rid of him after this one performance.
Yeah, it's absolutely laughable. And the most funny part about it is this is Mike Brown's second Coach of the Year award, and he got fired after the first one. So definitely don't want to repeat that. Just calm down, guys. I know a lot of emotions are running wild right now. Just relax. We would only be in this position because of Mike Brown, so it's definitely not time to fire him. And also we had some news come out about Jordy Fernandez today, so I definitely want to talk about that a little bit later in the show. But hey, guys, I mean, like I've been saying, you lost to the reigning champs in 7 games. It takes Curry 50 points to beat you. Like, this is not a negative. This is not a bad day for Kings fans. We made the playoffs, guys. It's been 17 years. The streak is over. We built the foundation this season. Next year, we start putting up the studs.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, you're going into the offseason now, but this is a very different offseason than what the Kings have been used to for the last nearly 2 decades, right? I mean, it is no longer about how do we rebuild the culture of this team? How do we rebuild the roster? I mean, yes, you're always, no matter whether you win the championship or not, you're always looking at ways to improve the roster of your team. And I'm sure that Monty McNair and Coach Brown will be doing a lot of that during the offseason because that's what you have to do every year. But, hey, this season is absolutely a successful one if you look at it from the Sacramento Kings perspective. For all the reasons that you've already listed, Barry, taking this team, this defending championship team, to a 7th game when everybody counted them out. A lot of people didn't think they were going to win a game in this series, and they came very, very close to winning this. I mean, they're one Harrison Barnes shot away from winning the series, actually. So it's absolutely a success. It's going to hurt. And it's going to hurt for a while, but it should, right? I mean, that's how you become better. I mean, whether it's playing your older sibling in the backyard and losing 1,000 times in a row until you finally figure out, how you can beat that person, or overcome your deficiencies, get better as a player. That's what it takes. That's what sports is about. You fail more times than you succeed, as Michael Jordan famously said, right? So this is only going to motivate this team further to come back next season and build off of the success that they had. We'll go through the team stats here very quickly because we've kind of touched on a few of these things already. Barry, you mentioned free throw shooting, and we'll start there. Neither team shot the ball well from the line in this series for the most part, but especially in this game. The Warriors, who in that third quarter, by the way, when they built a big lead, they missed 9 free throws in that quarter alone, end up shooting 19 for 30. That's good for 63%. But the Kings did not take advantage of any of that. They shot 16 for 27. That's below 60% at 59. The Kings also gave up 18 offensive rebounds in this game, which for me, I've been saying it all series long, that is the one stat that is the biggest teller for who's going to have the advantage. It's on the offensive glass. The Kings were -4 in that category, but again, giving up 18 in a game, that's just way, way, way too many. Warriors had more assists in this game, 25-21. Turnovers has been talked a lot about in this series. Both teams actually took pretty good care of the ball today, 7 for the Warriors and 8 for the Kings. The Warriors outscore them in the paint, 42-36. And the three-point shooting, Kings didn't show up again in this category, 12 of 47 after going 17 for 45 in Game 3. The Warriors do hit 15 threes, but they attempt 46 in this game. Barry, I know we talked about the free throw shooting and the offensive rebounds. Anything else you can add here?
Well, I thought you had a great point in our group text, the Royal Rebounds group text, and shout out to all my Royal family members out there. If you sign up for the VIP Royal Family membership, you do get access to the group text, group chat. But Calvin, I thought you had a great point in that group chat earlier that the third quarter, with all the missed free throws by the Golden State Warriors, the Kings were not able to capitalize on those. That's really where it fell apart for the Kings tonight. They need to capitalize on missed free throws. It seemed like the Warriors almost wanted to give the Kings the game at one point, and the Kings just couldn't make shots. They couldn't make the Warriors pay for it. And then, of course, we talked about the rebounds, specifically the offensive rebounds. And then Steph Curry just turned it on after that. So I thought you had a great point, discussing that. But, tough stat sheet to look at today, Cal.
Very tough stat sheet to look at. I mean, the statistics for most of this series, when you talk about shooting percentage, free throw shooting percentage, neither team really performed well in any of those categories. I think it's, again, a testament to how tightly contested this series was. These are two of the highest scoring teams in the NBA, and there were a multitude of games in this series where neither team scored over 110 points. The intensity was high from the beginning of this series. It was a physical series, and when that is the case, you have to win the hustle plays. You have to win the 50-50 balls. You have to box out. You have to secure rebounds. And Kevon Looney had, 3 games in this series of 20-plus rebounds? When you're going against the guy that is, again, the regular season rebounding champ, it's not all on Domantas Sabonis, because while I definitely agree with everybody in the chat here that's had a lot of comments about how he should have been better boxing out Kevon Looney. A lot of plays where he face guards Kevon instead of turning around to go get the ball. I think that's probably just, the mental wear and tear here of over and over again constantly losing the board battle. But you just have to be better. I mean, you've got to block out. You have to gang rebound. You certainly can't put it all on Domantas Sabonis, but he does deserve some of the blame. I mean, it is what it is here. The Kings just had to be better on the glass. That was the biggest differential, I think, from a game-to-game basis in this series. You can talk about three-point shooting all you want, but the Kings were in a lot of these games despite shooting terribly from three. So that just makes it more important that you have to secure offensive rebounds and not give up 10 on 10, clear lanes to the basket, clear offensive rebound opportunities. It's just an absolute backbreaker here.
Yeah, Sabonis got beat up in this series. I mean, it's been a long season for him. We mentioned the thumb. Of course, if you're watching the game tonight or the last game, you saw the shiner that he's got under that left eye. So it's been a long season for Domantas Sabonis. And, yeah, he just got beat up by the Golden State Warriors. So, I don't really think that anybody deserves blame for this loss or this season's loss or whatever it is, the Game 7 loss. Yes, as a team, you are responsible for, what the outcome is. But this team they fought hard, man. They fought really hard. They impressed me in Game 6, coming back after a brutal loss in Game 5 to even up the series and force a Game 7. But like I said, this is a defending reigning champs, the Golden State Warriors, versus a young team that hadn't been in the playoffs in 17 years. none of these guys have playoff experience outside of Harrison Barnes and Matthew Dellavedova, who's out with a broken finger also. I don't know what the hell is going on with the Kings. Last season it was eyes. This season it's fingers. But Harrison Barnes, you mentioned him and his lack of production today. It's really unfortunate. As soon as that shot didn't go down, you could see his confidence was wavering. I think that really, really affected him. I hope he can bounce back. But Calvin, how many likes do we have on the video right now?
We're only at 12 likes currently, and I do want to say I realize I've got the beam here lit in the background. I know that the Kings obviously did not win this game, but I wanted to leave it up there just as a symbol of what this season was and how special it was on a lot of levels for the Sacramento Kings.
I'm in the Lynx court right now, and I'm staring at a mechanical bull. 50 likes, and I will get on the mechanical bull.
Oh, there you go. You heard it now. Barry will get on the mechanical bull. How many likes did you say?
50 likes, just like 50 cents.
50. Oh, man, too soon. I will shout out to Progressive G here, who loves to call me out in the chat. Says, rebounding and rim protection. I've been saying it all year long, but Calvin said we needed more wing defenders at the trade deadline. I don't see how more wing defenders would have hurt. And yes, it is definitely obvious and easy to say that the Kings needed to rebound the ball better. Doesn't mean you can't rebound with the type of players that you have on your team. They just needed to want it more. The Warriors absolutely wanted it more here in this game, and that was the difference in the series.
Yeah, you know what they needed more than, rim protectors, rebounders, wing defenders? The Kings needed to be healthy. That's what they really needed for this series.
Yes, and definitely we'll have to keep an eye on what Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox, what their injury progression is over the course of the summer, whether they decide that they need to go and have surgery. I'm not even sure if that's on the table here for either one of them. Chris Paul had the same injury and elected to get surgery and miss a lot of the season. So we'll see what the Kings do and what those players do in terms of getting healthy over the course of the offseason. They definitely have some time to do so. Barry, I want to talk about Harrison Barnes here for a second because his name continues to come up in the chat here. Really wasn't very impressive, especially from an offensive standpoint for the later half of this series, for most of the series altogether. He is a free agent coming up here in this summer for the Kings. It's been, kind of an up and down, I don't want to say love-hate relationship, but a very up and down ride for Harrison Barnes throughout his entire tenure in Sacramento. Is he overvalued, undervalued, that sort of a thing? The Kings have a decision to make on whether or not they want to offer him a new contract going into the offseason. Barry, where are you on Harrison Barnes? Would you like to see him come back in a Sacramento Kings uniform? Do you think the Kings should move on and look for something else?
I would like to see him come back, and I know he struggled in this series. I don't want to put it all on HB. I'm not going to say that HB cost the Kings the series, but you know what he did cost? He cost himself a bunch of money, and that's a big, lucrative contract from the Sacramento Kings this offseason. Not saying that they won't re-sign him, but I'm sure if he would have played extremely well, if he would have gone off in this series, or maybe even just hit that game winner and the Kings advance, maybe he gets a much bigger contract. But like I said, I'm going to try and stay positive on this stream. And you know what I'm thinking, Calvin? Maybe this is good news for the Kings. Maybe they get Harrison Barnes at a discount next season.
That's very possible. It's going to be really interesting to see what they do with the rest of the rotation. This bench unit for the Kings was very up and down throughout the course of the season as well. Up until tonight, I know that they were the highest scoring bench unit in the playoffs. So they definitely have had their share of great moments here. If you get Harrison Barnes back at a discount, the question is, what do they do with the starting power forward position? Is he the guy again next season, or are they going to look for somebody else? As Progressive G said, I wanted more wing defenders at the trade deadline, but I also repeatedly said the number one thing that this team would benefit from is a very, very high-level starting power forward. As Sass points out here in the chat, I don't want Barnes back. We need a power forward. A guy that is a two-way player, a good rebounder, a versatile defender, somebody that's able to guard inside and out. I mentioned names like Aaron Gordon. I'm not saying that that is the answer here, but somebody in that mold would be, I think, the biggest addition that the Kings could make by far. Barry, do you agree with that?
I'm tired of being GM of the Sacramento Kings, Calvin. This is why we brought in Monte McNair. And, in Monte, I trust. If Monte thinks bringing Harrison Barnes back is the correct decision, I'll happily support him. If he thinks that we need to make a change, I will support that as well. So, in Monte, we trust.
In Monte, we trust. I think that's a very good statement. A lot of people, as you mentioned that, have also talked about Monte McNair's indecision or decision to not, make any major moves at the trade deadline. Of course, they did trade for Kessler Edwards, who people have also brought up in the chat here, did not get much playing time in this series, despite showing a lot of flashes of exactly the thing that the Kings needed, a two-way player that is versatile with a lot of length and able to guard multiple decisions. Barry, number one, revisiting the trade deadline, do you think that it was a mistake by Monte McNair to not make a more aggressive move? And B, do you think that Kessler Edwards should have gotten more playing time in the series?
I do think he should have got a little bit more playing time. But listen, Kings fans, stop moving the fucking goalposts. We wanted to make the play-in tournament this year. We made the playoffs. We had home court advantage. Just enjoy what you have. Enjoy the moment. Yes, we did lose today, but there's a lot of progress here. So stop shouting, that Monty needs to be fired or Mike Brown needs to be fired. Rome was not built in a day. We're not on a LeBron James-led team where we can trade everybody and surround our star with other superstars. We're building the right way. We have most of our draft picks. We have a lot of young players, and we have some cap flexibility as well. So I think he made the right move at the trade deadline. Obviously, I'm not involved in those conversations. And like I said, I'm going to trust him to make the right move. So I agree with him, and I'm going to stick with that, Cal.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Monte McNair has made, for pretty much pushed all the right buttons and made all the right moves so far in his tenure in Sacramento. I don't think that you can say that them losing this series in 7 games was because Monte McNair did not make any type of move at the trade deadline. He brought Domantas Sabonis here. He brought Mike Brown here. He filled out the roster with guys that complement each other, unlocked De'Aaron Fox, took Sabonis' game to another level. So I totally have faith in Monte McNair and what he's done since he's been the GM of the Sacramento Kings. Shout out to Big Bird here. As much as your comments are maybe continuing to bring everybody down here in the chat, he says that Mike Brown will never win a championship with his hurry up. I can't even remember the words, but will never win a championship with his coaching strategy. Guys, I don't know if I should be the one to tell him or you should that Mike Brown has won multiple championships already as a coach in this league. And yes, has won a championship as a head coach as well. But again, I think that, emotions are definitely running high. Fans are always quick, to point out the negatives here, and you should definitely feel some type of way after losing this game. But I think it's very, very important to keep in context what the Kings did this season with what they were given, a young team, a first-round draft pick that exceeded expectations, 2 All-Stars, probably All-NBA performers as well, the clutch player of the year. There are just so many good things to say about this team. So while it definitely stings, it definitely hurts. If you're in the boat that you need to get rid of Mike Brown after this season, then you don't want a winning team in Sacramento, because starting over at head coach would be probably the worst thing that the Kings could make at this point.
Yeah, 100% agree. And, while we're on the subject of coaching, can we talk about your boy, Jordi Fernandez?
Yes, we can absolutely talk about him. Well, what would you like to say?
So it's been reported that Jordi Fernandez on Saturday interviewed for the head coaching position of the Toronto Raptors. Calvin, give me your thoughts.
Well, we have talked about this, at multiple points throughout the course of the season. It's no surprise to hear that, right? Even before Jordi was in Sacramento, his name has been a very hot name coming up in the coaching ranks now in the NBA. When he was with Denver last season, everybody has a lot of good things to say about him, and he's definitely going to be a candidate for head coach in this league, whether it's going into next season or the year after that. That is, kind of the way it goes. Whether you're a college coach or a pro coach, as an assistant, or I should say as a head coach, if you have a good staff and you've got a good team, your assistant coaches are going to get offered head coaching jobs. It happens every single season, and you've got to find guys to fill the role and next man up. I mean, look at the Boston Celtics. They are an absolute perfect example of this. Brad Stevens is their coach a few years ago, one of the hottest up-and-coming head coaches in the NBA. It looked like he was going to be the head coach of that team for, decades. But all of a sudden, he decides he's going to make the move to the front office. Ime Udoka steps into that role, is the coach of the year, comes out of nowhere seemingly, even though his name was definitely well respected in the NBA. Then he's got the coaching scandal. He leaves. Another one of their assistant leaves to go coach the Utah Jazz. All of a sudden, you've got Joe Mazzulla who steps in there, and he's doing a fantastic job as well. So this is just par for the course. It's exactly what happens in football. You see it every year. The teams that make the conference finals and the Super Bowl, all of their assistant coaches are being interviewed for head coaching jobs before they've even played the championship game. So it makes total sense to me that you're going to hear Jordy Fernandez's name come up in head coaching conversations.
Yeah, you're 100% right, Calvin. And like you said, if you're really good at your job, other people are going to want you. You're going to be getting a promotion. But that shouldn't hold you back from, hiring great candidates. Look at what he's helped the Sacramento Kings achieve this season. So definitely rooting for Jordy. I do hope that he returns next year. But if he chooses, if he's offered that job and he chooses to take that and move on, I will continue to support him. But Cal, let's say he does take that job and, a little spot opens up on the bench as a head assistant. Who are you moving in there?
Man, that's a good question. I think Mike Brown will obviously have the answer for it. He's going to have to move somebody in there. The good news is they've got a lot of good candidates, right? I mean, Doug Christie has been a really reliable person on this bench, has so many connections to the community and the franchise, had a little bit of an opportunity to coach some games in an interim spot last season, so he got a little bit more experience there as the head man on the job. Leandro Barbosa has been with Mike Brown for a few years as well. He is highly respected in the NBA as well from both a player and a coach standpoint. But that doesn't mean that they wouldn't hire somebody in from outside either. I mean, just like your roster, a coach and a GM are always looking to improve the coaching staff as well. So I think that there's a lot of options. There are definitely a bunch of good ones, currently with the Kings and homegrown, for example, with Doug Christie, but they still are going to have to look at the whole landscape here, just like they do the roster, and decide what's best moving forward. And that's, assuming that Jordy Fernandez is not back with the Kings next year, which we don't know it will for sure happen at this moment.
Yeah, very, very true. And I'm a big Doug Christie fan, as you guys know. I'd be happy to see him move into that position. But if some shuffling on the bench does happen and a spot does open up, I keep my eyes on a guy that is currently a head coach. You know who that is, Calvin?
I'm not sure.
Bobby Jackson.
Definitely a good mention there. Has done so much good work with the Kings G League team. I think he's absolutely deserving, of moving up to the big leagues, so to say. You definitely want to still have that great valve, to rely on as your developmental minor league system type player. But hey, just like we talk about with Jordy Fernandez, if your work speaks for yourself, you deserve a promotion, right? And I think you can definitely say that about Bobby Jackson as well.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Calvin, as we start to, move a little bit further past this loss today. Yes, the Kings season is officially over, but the NBA season is not over. We have the next round of the playoffs starting for the Western Conference. Calvin, if you're a Kings fan, if you still enjoy watching basketball and you have not destroyed your TV after today's game, who are you rooting for in the next round? Is it the LA Lakers or all this bad blood that was just formed between the Kings and the Golden State Warriors?
Oh, I'm not rooting for either team in that series. I'm rooting for the Denver Nuggets, man. That's the team I want to see blow by the Phoenix Suns and then knock out whoever it is, the Warriors or the Lakers, in the Western Conference Finals. I'm Team Nuggets all the way at this point.
Good way to dodge the question, Calvin. I know a lot of people are probably already rooting for the Denver Nuggets because of the Mike Malone connection. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting next couple of weeks. I mean, dude, we have to say this Kings-Warriors series is by far the best series of the playoffs so far. Hopefully we get some more awesome NBA basketball in the next couple of weeks. But Calvin, honestly, give me your opinion on this Warriors-Lakers series. It could go 7 games. It could be as short as 4 games. I mean, who you got here?
I've got to give the edge to the Lakers currently. I mean, you know, obviously you look at the way that they've played since the trade deadline, all of the moves that they made seem to have been, you know, we talk about Monty McNair pressing all the right buttons. The Lakers definitely made the right decisions at the trade deadline to improve that roster. They're big, they're physical. Kevon Looney, you know, may have had his way inside with Domantas Sabonis. Anthony Davis is playing at an all-NBA level currently, and he is definitely going to be a load to handle inside for the Warriors, not to mention the other size that they've got. They have a clear advantage when it comes to size in this series on the Warriors. Of course, the Warriors have been there before. They're going to play that counter, you know, with the small ball lineup, try to spread everyone out and, you know, rely on Steph, Clay, and Jordan Poole to knock down outside shots. They are the defending champs. You can never count them out until somebody finally uproots them. But I think the way that the Lakers have played defensively, Anthony Davis playing as well as he is a huge, huge X factor for me when it comes to the Lakers. Their complementary players have been off the charts as well. Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, those guys have been so good since they came to the Lakers. Well, Austin Reeves was there all year long, but since being given more of a role on this team, he has definitely stepped up big time. I think I have to give the edge to the Lakers in this series.
Yeah, definitely very, very impressed by Austin Reeves. You know I'm a Laker hater through and through. Never root for the Lakers. But I think I agree with you, Calvin. I think they have a little bit of an advantage in terms of size. But at the same time, you know, this team is fragile. Anthony Davis could go down at any moment. And the Lakers would be, you know, they'd be screwed. But at the same time, we've seen the Warriors have quite a few injuries in the past few seasons as well. So they could be equally as fragile. Definitely should be an exciting series. And the winner does go on to the Western Conference Finals to potentially face the Denver Nuggets. But hey, I'm just happy as a basketball fan that the season is not over and we get to continue to watch some awesome NBA basketball for the next few weeks.
Of course, it's going to hurt, you know, to watch all these other teams here. Shout out to Calvin Johnston in the chat here. Brown said, y'all have no chance to win playing under control and smart. We only have a chance playing rush ball. That's a loser strategy. Calvin, I don't know why everybody is continuing to pin that on me. It's not like that was my strategy or anything that I said. I do agree with Coach
Calvin.
Brown that they had to play fast. I mean, the Kings had the advantage in this series when they were able to push the ball and get shots in transition, you know, not having to play against that set defense from the Warriors. That's been the case all season long. So the idea that this Kings team should not have played fast, I think, is a terrible take. But do you agree with that, Barry?
I think it's all your fault, Calvin. I mean, you're the reason the Kings lost this year. You cut your hair off, and that was what was keeping the Kings alive here. So, yeah, I'm 100% going to put this on you.
That's okay. I can take the blame. I can handle the responsibility. I'll put it all on my shoulders. You can take all of the blame from any of the players, any of the coaching staff. You can give it all to me. I can handle that. Absolutely.
Oh, okay, Akon. Hey, I just wanted to point out here, I'm in line at In-N-Out Burger. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Oh, man, I'm super jealous. What are you about to get?
I don't know. I might just get one of everything, Calvin. I mean, I'm here. I don't
one
get
of
to
every.
eat it
So you're going to get
very
4
often.
things?
Maybe. We'll see. I don't know. Haven't made up my mind yet.
Bouncer says shake. I agree. Got to go with the chocolate vanilla mix shake. I'm a 4x4 guy personally. PKT. Shout out to PK. That's pickles, ketchup, and tomato only, for those of you that don't have the In-N-Out lingo down. Elenia says, I'm jealous that you're at In-N-Out. Regret not getting them last time. Yes, we definitely have to make a trip to In-N-Out next time we're on the mainland. Sack Kings 005 says, why is Kev getting any playing time in Game 7? Barry, talk to me about Kevin Huerter. What happened to him in this series? Did the Warriors take him away from the Kings, or did he just not make shots?
He just didn't make shots, Calvin. I mean, he's a shooter. Shooters go through slumps. They also go through hot streaks. He just wasn't making shots. I mean, we saw what he did in Game 6, and I think that gave a lot of Kings fans, myself included, some hope, and maybe even Mike Brown, that he was going to turn it around. He was ready to make some shots. He did start out this game pretty well. He just didn't end it well. So, like I said, this blame does not belong on any one player. But shooters got to keep shooting. Not mad at Kevin Huerter, although I would have liked to see him shoot a lot better in this series. But I still got confidence in him, and I think he's going to come back next year and be stronger, be better.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I hope that he definitely is able to, take this as a learning lesson and come back a better player. We've talked about sort of his, just like every player on this Kings team, their deficiencies as a player. Sometimes it's defense, sometimes it's hustles, it's rebounding, it's all of that stuff. But I think, it's pretty easy to lose sight of what those players also did incredibly well in this series. Calvin Johnson says that Kevin Huerter has a bad shooting form. You might not like his form, but he shot over 40% from three during the season. There have been a lot of players in NBA history that you could question their form. Sean Marion is one that comes to my mind. I don't hear anybody saying Sean Marion shouldn't take threes still. It's unfortunate that he wasn't able to hit from this series. I think that the Warriors did a very good job at running him off of those screens. Huerter has been able to create extra space and get a lot of open looks at the basket, this season. He was not able to do that in this series, and the Warriors definitely made a point to try to a lot like you guard Steph and Clay, right? You have to stay glued to them running all over the court, coming off of these screens. And Huerter didn't convert on the opportunities that he had. It's just easy to say. He didn't make shots. There's a lot of that happened in this series. I mean, Klay Thompson today didn't make a lot of shots in this game, but they made enough shots down the stretch to get the job done. And that's going to be ultimately, what is the deciding factor here in this series.
Calvin, NBA champion Sean Marion has a bad shot.
NBA champion, correct.
Let that marinate for a little bit there. I don't care what your shot looks like, as long as it goes in. Yes, it didn't go in a bunch in this series, but like I said, and like you've been saying all season long, shooters shoot. They go through highs, they go through lows. But the dude started out the season incredibly well. And dude, if you're in the NBA, if you're known as a 3-point shooter, like, just do what you do. Like, you don't need to adjust, maybe small tinker, stuff like that, but like rehaul your whole shot? No, not even close.
Definitely. I'm seeing a lot of the Kings didn't attack the rim enough. That's been kind of a very consistent comment throughout the course of this series. I can't say that I agree with it completely. I mean, yes, it definitely looks that way when you just continue to hoist open three after open three and they don't go in. And I totally agree that the Kings, not just in this series, but all season long, they definitely have had those moments where they take threes early in the shot clock, questionable shot selection from guys like De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk. All of that is true. But I think that if you actually are being serious about it, you can't say that the Kings did not attack the rim at all in this series. A lot of it, sometimes you're able to get to the rim, you don't get foul calls, you can't convert on those open shots. That is one of the things that we talked about a lot with Harrison Barnes in this series during the regular season. He was great at being sort of that release valve for the Kings offense when they were struggling to shoot from three. He was able to get to the basket and get to the free throw line. He did not do that at all in this series. But Barry, kind of talk to me about, Kings strategy. I keep seeing the Kings were pushing the ball too much. They were running too fast. They were playing out of control. Calvin with the clown take after a loss. Guys, I really, your opinions are all totally valid, but I just don't understand why everybody has to dogpile, on the fact that the Kings blew this game. Yes, they lost. It is unfortunate. But I think you still have to take the entire season into account. Oh, okay. Yeah. He means the other Calvin. That's fair. I appreciate that. Oh, we got Barry with some technical difficulty once again.
Can I get a number 3 with a root beer, please?
Oh, there you go. Barry ordering a number 3 with a root beer for those of you who had that on your bingo card. So I think we can maybe shift the focus to the offseason, right? Because that's the next step for this Kings team. It's something that we as Kings fans are very used to doing, not being able to participate in the postseason. But now we actually got a little bit of a taste of it, and it's going to be a completely different offseason. The Kings do not have a lottery pick. They're going to pick late in the first round, somewhere in the mid-20s here. And they've got a very interesting or some interesting decisions to make when it comes to how they build this roster. They've got a bunch of cap space available here in free agency. Harrison Barnes, free agent. Obviously, Domantas Sabonis, getting an extension done with him should probably be the number one focus for the Sacramento Kings this offseason. And the new CBA gives them a little bit more flexibility with the fact that they're able to pay him even more money than they were previously able to. But, Barry, give me your first thoughts here heading in to the offseason and how this is going to be a very different one for the Sacramento Kings than from years past.
It might be time for the Kings to be a little aggressive here. Monty said that, there's times to be aggressive and there's times to be patient. We've seen him do a little bit of both of those. But this team has proven a little bit of, his strategy correct, and maybe it's time to double down on that. Like you said, they do have a draft pick. They have a lot of cap space. There's a lot of weapons at Monty's disposal. And, Calvin, I might even say maybe some players want to come to Sacramento now. They've seen what the Kings can do. They've seen what guys like De'Aaron Fox can do. I mean, De'Aaron's going to continue to get better. Keep an eye on him next season, because I'm not saying he's going to win MVP next year, but he could definitely be in, maybe a top 5 candidate or something like that. And I think that's good news for the Sacramento Kings. But Calvin, I think they go out. I think they pick up a backup center. I think they add some more wing defenders, maybe some more shooting. And we see what happens here, Cal.
Are you in sort of the, all in at this point, or, the sort of win now is a phrase that gets thrown around a lot. I think a lot of times it's used maybe prematurely, but we've talked a lot this season about how the Kings have a fair amount of money to spend going into this offseason. They've done a really good job constructing this team and still giving them some financial flexibility. Do you think that this summer is the sort of push all the chips into the middle of the table all in moment where they try to make a big free agent acquisition?
The Kings are definitely in win now mode. But I don't know if that means push all the chips into the table. It depends on what's available. Like I said, I'm going to continue to trust Monty McNair and what he wants to do, what his plan is for this team. But, maybe we're going to see a little bit more aggressive Monty McNair here, making some moves and trying to help guys like De'Aaron Fox and Domas Sabonis.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the Kings definitely are in a great position, right? Having a lot of these key rotation players or star players locked up for a number of years. They're young. They got a lot of great experience this season. So you want to improve the team and improve the roster, but you also want to make sure that these guys continue to develop and get better. And Keegan Murray is obviously the first person that comes to mind when I say that. I can't say enough good things about Keegan this season. The fact that he responded over and over and over again. De'Aaron Fox said it very well after Game 6. The guy is just a rookie out there, but he plays, a lot like a vet in terms of his being able to respond in critical moments when he's challenged. His demeanor throughout the course of the season, which is a very, very difficult thing to stay level-headed as a rookie going up and down, especially when you're on a team that wins, right? I mean, it's easy to get deflated and kind of revert to one-on-one ball or just going out to play for your numbers when your team loses constantly throughout the course of a season, like a lot of top 5 picks do. But Keegan was never in that position this season. He was challenged constantly throughout the year, and he continued to succeed and come back stronger every time he went through a little bit of a down spike. So there is a lot to like about Keegan, and I think that he will take another big step forward next season. They should definitely be planning to continue to expand his role throughout the course of the offseason and going into next year. It's no secret that they need to be better on the glass. A lot of people are going to say that is a direct result of signing somebody bigger or giving more minutes to a bigger player. But look at the Warriors. They do not play a very large lineup. They've got a lot of really, really excellent smaller or wing players that are great rebounders. Gary Payton, Dante DiVincenzo, Draymond Green, for as much as everybody hates him for his size, he's able to compete in there and grab rebounds against a lot of bigger players. So it's not necessarily just sign a 7-footer. It's sign guys that are able to be versatile, defending multiple positions, and are excellent rebounders for their size. Josh Hart, I think, is a great example of that. Somebody that the Knicks, I think, really won with in acquiring him at the trade deadline. Phenomenal rebounder for a guy his size. It's stuff like that, going back to that conversation that we had on this show about rebounding and how the margin for victory is so small. It only takes a few more per game, and you're able to do that, with the players that you have on your roster. It's about committing fully mentally, boxing out. You just have to be better. So I think that they will, of course, look at the landscape and try to figure out how they're going to tweak this roster. Charles has a great question here in the chat, Barry. He says, do we keep Len or not? Alex did not play for most of this season, then was finally inserted as a regular rotation player into the lineup late in the year, played really, really well, gave them a lot of really good minutes. Barry, is Alex Len somebody that you want to see the Kings retain this offseason?
Oh, man, these fries are fantastic. Calvin, I was in a pretty good mood, and then you just brought up the D word, Draymond Green, and I'm feeling a little sour about it. But, hey, I like Alex Len. I do like him a lot, but I think it's time for a little bit of an upgrade for the Sacramento Kings. I'm going to throw this out there. I know it's not very realistic, but, hey, maybe it is. Maybe he'll be a cap casualty of the new CBA and what's going on with the D word. But, dude, if I could throw the house at Kevon Looney, I'll do it. That guy would be fantastic on the Sacramento Kings.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. I want to give a shout out to Will Highsmith for maybe the worst comment I've seen on this channel all year. Fox didn't want to win. He didn't want to take out the Warriors. He isn't a true dog when it really matters. But Sabonis is so horrible at rebounding and on offense that it didn't matter. not really sure I could come up with a worse thing to say or a more incorrect thing to say about this team. You agree with that, Barry?
Will who?
Will Highsmith. Shout out.
Will who?
Will who is right, I guess.
I don't give a fuck who that is, Calvin. That's a stupid-ass comment. Move on.
Well, we're moving on. Yours low. Strangely, Sabonis had 22 points, 6 more than your boy Foxy. Resident Fox hater in the house here. Of course, there are no shortage of those in the world. Barry, what's your take on De'Aaron Fox and how poorly he came up for the Kings in Game 7?
Dude's got a broken finger. He's playing through it. It's been a long season for him. You know, I'm not blaming De'Aaron Fox. I'm happy with him. I'm happy with his progression this year. You know, take your sorry, stuff him in a sack. We'll be back next year.
That's right. That's right. I mean, De'Aaron Fox has been dealing with that his entire career. And up until this point, the criticism has been totally fair, right? I mean, we've said it on this channel going back to as early as last season. We need more fight out of him. Don't see enough of the leadership qualities, all of that stuff. Certainly Fox winning cures a lot of those things, right? But I think that Fox's performance this season is all you really need to look at with everything that he did for this team, finally being able to play with a real roster constructed around him. It's easy to pile on people in moments like this. And if you're a great player, you're going to come back even stronger next year. And I assume that De'Aaron Fox will do that.
100%. And, you know, as much as you want to think it's a certain player or whatever, players play, teams win, teams lose. This is a team loss. They're going to be better. And like I said, dude, this is the reigning champion Golden State Warriors. We took them to 7 games in the first round of the NBA playoffs for the first time in 17 years since they've been in the playoffs. So, like I said, this is not a lost season. I am not disappointed in the Kings. I'm happy. Let's keep building. Let's move forward. No need to tear people down or anything like that. Let's just keep pushing. The guys will get better. They will improve. And I'm sure they got a little bit of a chip on their shoulder that they're going to love to use as some motivation next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Yours low. Fox looked around while the Warriors threw the ball to Curry with 1.6 seconds remaining. What's that got to do with a broken finger? Absolutely a good point. You cannot lose Steph Curry on the inbounds play like that late in the shot clock and give up a wide open 3. There are plenty of defensive breakdowns by a lot of players on this team that we have pointed out all season long. But I think you, at the same time, have to take the positive with the negative and give credit when credit is due. De'Aaron Fox definitely deserves a lot of credit for the way that he played, not only this season, but in this series alone. I mean, he went toe-to-toe with Steph Curry for a lot of these games and came up big for them both early in the game, late in the game. Of course, it wasn't enough. They weren't able to win the series, but you definitely still have to give credit when credit's due, along with giving criticism when criticism is due, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a good point, Calvin. I just want to kind of go back to what I've been saying, and that's the fact that Kings fans keep moving the goalposts. You know, and it's okay to want to be better and want to win a championship and all that stuff. I know Coach Brown's been preaching that, and, you know, that's something that we all want. But like I said, remember what the goal was at the beginning of the season. The Kings far exceeded that, and De'Aaron Fox is one of the main reasons that happens. Yes, people make mistakes. Yes, things happen. And like I said, the Kings are going to come back stronger next year. They're going to build off of this. But, hey, if they would have won this game and Fox had a poor game in the next series and they lost, people would be screaming the same thing. So, like I said, quit moving the goalposts. Be happy with where the Kings are at right now, and let's get back to work.
Definitely. Shout out to Charles, member of the royal family. Got a great comment here. He says, Fox struggled driving because he couldn't dribble well. It happened multiple times, losing the ball in ways that he didn't usually lose it with a good finger. I think that's very well said. Like, you certainly can't. No excuses, right? If you're going to be out there, whether you have a broken finger or not, you're playing in the game. You can't cough up the ball in key moments like that. And he's not the only one that did it. I mean, the Kings had a lot of really bad turnovers in the fourth quarter of a lot of games in this series, which ended up swinging the tide. But I think that it is also a good point to make that, when your dominant hand has a broken finger, your grip on the ball, your ability to maneuver through traffic, especially if you get hit on the hand, that's not going to make it easy.
Sorry, Calvin, I fully was not listening to what you just said. I am watching a homeless man swimming in a pond or a fountain here and getting kicked out by security. Can you repeat that one more time, please?
I was just saying, Charles says that De'Aaron Fox's broken finger definitely affected him driving to the basket, probably not being able to get a good grip on the ball, maybe getting hit, a few times, especially late in the game. He ends up, coughing the ball up or turning it over in a lot of moments that he maybe would not have if he had a fully healthy left hand.
Oh, 100% agree there. And, dude, you got to give the guy credit for playing, putting it all out there on the court, injured or not. Yes,
yeah.
He's got some things to work on. He's got some things to improve on. That's great. That's great. All I got to say, Calvin, Steph Curry's in the same situation. He would not have been out there for the Golden State Warriors.
I totally agree. I think that's a very great point. If De'Aaron Fox would have said, no, I can't go because I've got a broken finger on my shooting hand, everybody would have just completely piled on him. He's not tough enough. He doesn't want to win. Charles says Kobe did it and won a championship, but Kobe also had an entire season to deal with it. Fox had 3 games. It's, just like you said, moving the goalposts, right? It's never enough. I think if Fox would have sat out for the last few games of this series, the hate would have been so strong on him. The fact that he comes back and plays, and actually plays really, really well for most of those games. I mean, he didn't have a great game today, but had multiple games over 20 points and 10 plus assists with that broken finger. If you say that De'Aaron Fox doesn't want to win, you just have to look at those performances to show to tell yourself that, yeah, I think he probably does want to win.
Sure, he definitely wants to win. And kind of going back to what your Michael Jordan quote, and I'm going to butcher it a little bit here, but, I think I've heard another famous person have a very similar quote, and they said that, you got to learn how to lose before you can learn how to win. The Kings have spent a lot of time learning how to lose, and now they're finally learning how to win. But moving the goalposts, just be happy to be here. And, I'm going to sound like a broken record, Calvin. But we're going to come back stronger next year. Time to get back to work for the Kings.
That's what you got to do, man. That's what this league is all about. It's about learning from mistakes and failure and rising up from the ashes and coming back stronger the next season. It took all the greats that same type of route to get to the legendary status, that we see them in today, whether it's LeBron, Kobe, Jordan. All of these guys had to deal with their own different types of individual, moments where they came up short or failed or missed a game-winning shot or had to come back stronger the next year so that they could deal with the Detroit Pistons, brutal bump and run defense. These are what makes great players great. It's not necessarily the moments where you succeed. It's the moments where you learn from your mistakes, from your failures, and come back better.
Totally agree, Calvin. I couldn't have said it better. Also, quick tip, one to throw out there. Anybody going to Vegas soon, wear a cowboy hat. My dad's wearing a cowboy hat. He's getting hollered at by everybody. Wear a cowboy hat next time you're in Vegas. It's a lot of fun.
There you go. You heard it first. If you're ever in Vegas, make sure you bring your cowboy hat with you.
So, Calvin, I know we're getting kind of towards the end of the show here. We talked about coaching. We talked about the game today. We talked about some off-season stuff. And we talked about De'Aaron Fox. We briefly talked about Domas and kind of his impact with the Kings this year. But, Calvin, is there anything that you think that Domas can take from this series, that he can work on this off-season and come back better next year? Or is this more on coaching, where coaching needs to put him in a better position to succeed?
I would have to say it's obviously a little bit of both. I mean, if you're a player, you always have to try to come back better and add more pieces to your game or add, X, Y, and Z to your game in order to continue to not only play at the same level, but a better level year in and year out. I think that the Warriors made a lot of really great defensive adjustments on what was the best offense in the NBA this season, and one of the best offenses statistically in NBA history. We talked a lot about taking what the defense gives you. Sabonis did take a bunch more mid-range shots in this game. He started off very, very hot, and I thought it was this really great thing. I felt like if Sabonis is going to be left open from that elbow and he's able to knock down that shot consistently, it's going to be bad news for the Warriors. The problem was he failed to knock down shots in the second half, even shots at the rim. I do think that going to more of a traditional pick and roll style would have greatly benefited this team if they would have run more of that in this series. Every time Malik Monk and Sabonis ran a pick and roll, it usually resulted in something good for Sacramento, whether it was Malik getting a clear lane at the rim or making a great drop pass to Sabonis, in the paint for an easy shot, or kicking it out for a three. The dribble handoff worked so well for the Kings throughout the course of the regular season, especially with Kevin Huerter. The Warriors knew that, and they definitely did a great job of taking that away in the series. I would have loved to have seen a little bit more traditional pick and roll, whether it was De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk, all of that. So I do think that there is a fair amount to be said for both of those things. Sabonis should be able to come back a better player in the offseason, as every player tries to do. But I think that the Kings could have made a few more adjustments in terms of looking to give Sabonis different looks and trying to give the Warriors defense a different look. That's the biggest thing, right? If something's not working in a playoff series, you've got to be able to throw a wrinkle into that. I thought the pick and roll would have been a great wrinkle to throw in there. I just didn't see enough of it.
Do you think Sabonis will be the starting center for the Kings next season?
That's another very good question. I mean, it all depends on what type of roster moves they're able to make, right? I still think that if you were to upgrade the power forward position, then you can keep Sabonis at center. He definitely proved to me that he can play that position this year. And when it comes to when you talk about the style of offense they play, I think that having a two-way playing power forward that's a great rebounder, is able to stretch the floor a little bit with a three-point shot, would allow you to keep Sabonis at center and continue that style. If you're going to bring in more of a traditional center and move Sabonis to the power forward position, you probably have to rework the offensive system a lot from what it looked like this season. And I say that because if you're going to have a traditional big center in there, chances are they're not going to be the greatest at spreading the floor with a three-point shot, which means they're a lot of times going to occupy space on the block, in the paint, which takes away a lot of what the Kings like to do with their off-ball movement, having Sabonis high and being able to throw passes on backdoor cuts, into the paint or for a baseline cutter. When there's somebody occupying the paint like that, or the space in the middle, those passes aren't always going to be there. So I'm not going to say that wouldn't work for Sacramento, but you would have to probably change a lot about how this team plays offensively if that's the route you're going to take. Barry, do you have an opinion or a preference on whether Sabonis should be center or power forward going into next year?
I'm staying out of it, Calvin. I'm totally staying out of that. But since we're on the topic of, off season, is there a guy that you can think of? Maybe he's available, maybe he's not available. But is there a guy that you think that the Kings should definitely go after this offseason, whether it's Mikal Bridges, maybe go after a Rudy Gobert? With the Timberwolves, we've seen that experiment's kind of failed. Is there one guy that you're like, the Kings should definitely try and make a move for this person? I think he would round out the roster and really give the Kings a better chance to go a little bit further next year.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of names that I can throw out there as being great candidates or great fits for this team, guys that would complete the roster you should definitely go out and get. The problem with that, and it's something that I talk about at the trade deadline all the time, because people are like, well, just go after this guy because he would fit great for this team. it's not that easy. You can't just say, well, Jaren Jackson would be the perfect fit on this team. Let's just go out and make a trade for him. A lot of those scenarios are not realistic. So, yes, I would love to have somebody like Jaren Jackson on my team. I would love to have Pascal Siakam on my team. I'm really not sure about Rudy Gobert, not saying that you are adamant about trading for him or trying to get him on the Kings. That's probably not the type of guy that I would go after. But it takes two to tango, man. I mean, Mikal Bridges, I would love to have him on my team. You really think the Nets are going to give him up after the finish to the season he had and the way that he's played for them? So you're going to have to probably take maybe a risk on somebody or, try to go in with the hopeful idea that you're going to sign someone in free agency that's going to take a big step forward next year, because while the Kings have made a lot of improvements, they have some money to spend. There may be a more viable option for a free agent in the NBA than they've been in a lot of years. It's not a guaranteed thing that you're just going to be able to go out and sign somebody because they're a free agent. So that's the way that it goes in the NBA, right? I mean, you would love to have a lot of these guys. It's just not necessarily as easy to grab them as some people might think.
Yeah, great point. It really does take two to tango. It really does. Well, hey, Calvin, I think that pretty much wraps it up for me. I got to get going here. But I want to thank everybody for joining in via Twitter Spaces, via YouTube. You guys have been with us all season long. The ones that have really stuck with us for multiple seasons, always appreciate you. Smash up that like button, hit that subscribe button. We're definitely going to have some more videos coming out this off season. We don't have a schedule quite yet. However, we will schedule things in advance. We will let you guys know in advance. Hopefully you all enjoy the rest of the NBA playoffs this year. And hey, if you want to hear from us, if you want to talk with us, you can always hit us up on Twitter. You can send us a private message, Royal_Rebounds. And next time we're in Sacramento, would love to get together with a bunch of you, and maybe have a beer, maybe talk basketball, and get ready for next year.
Without a doubt. I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you so much to everybody who's supported the Sacramento Kings and this channel all season long. Barry and I are not professionals. We do this purely because we love this team and we love basketball, and it is great to be able to share that love with everybody out there who appreciates all of those things as much as we do. So thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please like this video. If you are not subscribed to our channel, please do so as well. Turn on the notification bell, because while we will not be putting out regular content during the off season like we do during the regular season, we will still be available for the big moments and all breaking news that happens Sacramento Kings and NBA related. The draft is coming up. Free agency will be there. And the Kings are now a winning team that has some big decisions to make. So it's going to be a fun ride here this summer. Thank you so much for Calvin and Barry. We love you guys. We love the Kings. We will see you soon. Good night.
Go Kings.